Today we got a massive announcement from ZeniMax about the future of class balance and identity in The Elder Scrolls Online. And I think this has the potential to have a huge positive impact on the game while addressing some long outstanding issues as well as those introduced by subclassing earlier this year. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Cal, and I've been thinking a lot about class balance and identity in The Elder Scrolls Online recently. I even went so far as to finish leveling up an Arcanist to round out my collection of characters in the game. For anyone who caught my last video, you already know that one of the core issues I've had with ESO recently has been class balance, and those issues were only exacerbated with the introduction of subclassing earlier this year. But it appears hope is on the horizon. We still don't have all the details, but I love getting this look behind the curtain. And I really appreciate some of the clarifying details that were shared in today's announcement. So in today's video, I want to go through that announcement with you all and share some of my initial thoughts. It would appear that our feedback has been received, and ZeniMax will be prioritizing class balance and taking a closer look at all of the classes to address player feedback and improve the overall look, feel, and balance of combat to revitalize each of ESO's 7 classes, starting with the ones that they feel need the most work first. In addition to that announcement, they've shared a look behind the scenes at their vision and design philosophy for each of the classes moving forward, going so far as to define the source of power and power fantasy for each class, which I love. So here's what ZeniMax had to say. When we talk about the source of power for a class, we are referring to what the lore-relevant origin of a class's power is and what might differentiate them from a normal citizen of Tamriel. Different power sources shape distinct playstyles. These differences help set ESO's classes apart from one another in terms of their identity. So I absolutely love that they've shared a clearer vision for class identity and how they see it playing a role in the playstyle for each class. I think this was lost along the way, but this sounds awesome. There was also an acknowledgement of the problems that subclassing brought to the game. So while subclassing as a system isn't going anywhere, it sounds like they are ready to work on addressing some of the balance problems it introduced at the beginning of 2025. Here's what they had to say. Subclassing, at its core, directly competes with our established version of class identity, and instead puts that agency into your hands, giving you the ability to create anything you want. While this is a deeply important part of the feature for us, it also comes with some drawbacks for balance. Now, this is an issue that was raised the moment subclassing was announced, but an overdue course correction is far better than no course correction. I also find it refreshing to see the issue addressed so directly, and it inspires some confidence that concerns raised by the community have been heard. Now it's just about the execution. They continued to say, as it stands, subclassing is objectively stronger than pure classing by a large margin for several reasons. And the system highlighted issues with the current class skill line design that were not previously a factor, but are untenable going forward. With this in-game data and player feedback, and the available development resources in place, we have a clearer picture of the scope of changes that need to be made. I think there's some key takeaways here. The changes that they are looking to make aren't just based on data or some spreadsheet somewhere, but will also be taking into account our feedback. It also sounds like they'll be taking steps to decentralize role-specific power in each class's kit, which should ultimately mean that they'll reintroduce some benefits to running a pure class in ESO. If done right, this should mean that builds might not be quite so cookie-cutter moving forward. They went on to share their long-term vision for classes in ESO, all of which sound great to me. So, first of all, every class will be viable in any role. I believe this is technically already the case, but obviously we could use some adjustments to bring performance levels a bit closer together. I also think it's fair to say that this will probably never be perfect. And in my opinion, it's okay if some classes excel in one area or another, but I don't think there should be huge gaps here or a single class that really excels across the board. Number 2, they said that classes should feel cohesive and true to their power fantasy with abilities, animations, and audio effects that reinforce the core identity, with refreshed and modernized abilities that look and feel as impactful as those of more recently introduced classes like the Arcanist. So again, if you caught my last video about my Arcanist character, you already know this is exactly what I was hoping to see. It's clear to me that the Arcanist class was designed from the ground up with modern ESO in mind and a set of skills that provide the complete package. And third, they said that they want to ensure that every class feels good to play, both mechanically and thematically, while keeping the unique flavor that sets each apart. I also think this is a bit reassuring. I want my Warden skills to look and feel as powerful and useful as the Arcanist skills, but I don't want every class to just be a rescan of the Arcanist. Finally, they shared some overarching goals for this entire undertaking. They mentioned they want to strengthen the unique identities of each class, improve the balance between pure classing and subclassing, make each class's skill lines more varied and distinct for what they offer a role, ensure changes that reflect player experiences and preferences, and finally, address some of those power outliers in abilities and skill lines. Ultimately, this all sounds pretty good. And it will come down to the execution. They plan to tackle these classes one by one, starting with the ones that require the most modernization and balance work. In general, the sequencing that they shared makes sense to me. Morden might be my personal priority, but I do think that Dragon Knight probably deserves the first look here. And to that end, they shared a little bit of additional detail on what they're thinking for the Dragon Knight. But I'm not well equipped to speak to those example changes. But I am excited to hear that their plan includes more than just tinkering with the numbers. And these changes will also include high-level adjustments to visuals and animations. I also appreciate that we are getting a bit more of the vision behind these changes. I think one of the things that's been missing for me in the past, even with the developer notes in the patch notes, is the actual design philosophy that is driving the changes that they are making. I want to know the why behind the why, and we're getting a little bit of that with this announcement. So I'm really excited about the class identity refresh, and I really appreciate the additional transparency when it comes to the vision and design direction that they are applying here. I believe this transparency has been sorely needed, and it's going to help the community provide even better feedback moving forward. For example, when we're testing out any changes to the Dragon Knight, we might be able to say whether they do or do not make them better attrition warriors. I also just got done sharing how much I want the older classes to be brought up to the design standards set by Arcanist, and it's great to see that direction reflected in this announcement. Before I wrap up this video, I did want to call out one final line from the announcement that gives me a lot of hope. We are committed to evolving our design philosophies by using player feedback and in-game data to help guide class updates. So taking the Dragon Knight as an example, since they did share some additional details on what they were thinking, I think setting the vision for the class as the attrition warrior class is great in theory, but it needs to feel rewarding in practice, and future adjustments should account not just for the performance data, but also player perception, ease of play, and to some extent, popularity. There are questions that need to be answered here. Is an attrition warrior fun to play in modern ESO? Does an attrition warrior have a role in all types of content? Does anyone even want to play an attrition warrior in ESO? Beyond all that, I think my biggest question out of the gate is really just about the timing. Is this process going to take one patch cycle per class? 2? More? Or will we potentially see multiple classes getting refinement in parallel? Hopefully, we'll know more soon. Now, if you'd like to read the full announcement for yourself, I will have a link in the description down below. It also sounds like they've got a scheduled Q&A on Thursday of this week, which may include answers to some of our questions. I'll also link that Q&A in the description for anyone who happens to be watching this video in the future after it has passed. I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you're all as excited as I am by this news. I personally can't wait to learn a little bit more about what ZeniMax has in store for the future of class balance and identity in ESO. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more ESO coverage here on the channel. And that's going to do it for me today. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye for now, everyone.